Good morning and happy Friday, Pat. We're on a little early because you are hopping on an airplane today.
Good morning. Yep.
Instead of being on at 3 o'clock. And this is, I know it's rough. You usually don't get out of bed till noon. So
Yeah, I find it hard once in a while my body's not moving because my just sitting there laying in bed. But I was taking a shower today, and I normally obviously not here in the morning, but I was taking a shower and I put cologne on and getting all spritzed up, and I'm like, who's gonna be able to smell me here on the Zoom call? You know,
that technology is probably coming. So pretty soon. And just to warn the audience, I have not taken a shower yet. So I'm glad there's no. But do you like my new setup?
Yeah, I like it.
Change it up a little bit yesterday. Get rid of
I'm
that.
I'm not gonna ask what the A's for, but
it's it's not Arizona. It's
okay.
It's a personality type. I think I've been called worse. So today we're gonna run through this morning's numbers, and we're gonna talk about the rates and then a little bit of what we think's going on in the market there, and we're gonna jump around just a little bit, not too much. So I want to get going with my handy dandy little spreadsheet here and show you that it's interesting. This shows you the red line that contracts went up. We have I'll show you the number live here in a minute. We had 18,600 homes on the market. And you can see the red line that we've had some sales pick up, but that's kind of insignificant. It's really only about 500 homes, if that, not that much. Good morning. And so listings, the number of new listings coming on, this is 7-day moving average, has been trending down the past couple of weeks. Slight dip up today. And again, those are just really, really tiny numbers. It's being driven by the fact that sales have dropped off. Take a look at these CMI numbers, and I won't go town by town, but I'll show you that Fountain Hills is still very strong in favor of sellers. They don't have much inventory, and that's what's driving that up there. But then look at Buckeye, Queen Creek, Maricopa now officially in a buyer's market. You've got the upper hand in those three cities if you're a buyer. And so that has changed dramatically in the past 6 weeks. If we look at what's really going on, this is sales per month. I think this is probably the most telling chart of all, and it shows you this is all July. Goes back to July of 2008. Look how many homes we sold in July of 2008. 5,763. Look at today. 5,728. We're right there.
Wow.
The sales. I mean, that is why prices are coming down so much, especially list prices, because I looked up on Showing Time yesterday, and guess what? The average home, no matter what the price point, the average home is getting 4 showings a month.
Really?
Not a day, 4 showings a month.
What was that compared to, like give people like 6, 7, 8 months ago showing?
You used to get a minimum of 5 a day.
Yeah.
And so, and some of the stats that show you like they would average out like 30 a month, but a home never stayed on the market for a month.
Yep.
So here's the monthly average sales price. Now I did have a comment yesterday where somebody said, well, here's one here says, I'm willing to wait this market out until I feel comfortable with the pricing. Until then, I'll be eating and drinking while watching this market like a blockbuster movie. Watch it here. So that's what we want you to do. That's for sure. But everybody's waiting, and there's a ton of people waiting. And so they're waiting for this price to somewhere, from what I can gather, 25% seems to be the happy number, the happy spot everybody wants.
Yep.
25% down. Well, that puts you down here. That puts you down to 2020 levels. So then we just wonder, if we get down to 2020 levels, are people gonna jump back in? And that's really the big question.
They'll find it out here if they keep watching. I mean, last 2.5 years that we've been tracking stuff. I mean, obviously, I think we've been helping people just get a trend line. You start seeing a trend line.
Yeah. So Charlie's saying rates. Well, here's what's going on with rates. You said earlier in the week that we were just kind of in this channel and we were just going to muddle along, and it looks like
Yep.
that's what's happening. And Charlie says he wants high interest rates.
That's I will touch upon that actually. Thanks, Charlie. But as I was saying, sorry for the. Let me just. I don't think my throat is used to talking early this morning. But yeah, once again, you could see this channel. I mean, the channel I'm talking about, obviously, this is one. And what I try to do, this analysis is more or less for long-term and short-term. If people are looking, like if I've got somebody that is looking to close in the next 30 days, I get really zoomed in on this stuff as far as where we're at, how it's moved, where we're going to go, because it could be the difference of $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 in closing costs and rate and fees to try to lock somebody. Obviously, this is the price, the bond price inverted. Yeah, I use this a lot because rates. I don't know. I just think that the price. I like watching the price. But there was a lot of brokers and a lot of mortgage people that got excited here. They were locking now, because what I'm seeing is the last, couple weeks, people are like, oh, what do I do now? Because they locked at a higher rate. They got excited. So it's important to watch.
This is an inverted chart. So you're showing going down means interest rates go up. So what happened was, as that line was going down, brokers are going, you better lock. This is not looking good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think this service that I subscribe. I get prescribed other stuff, but and I subscribe to some other things. But that's why I watch these channels. And this is kind of technically, I know you can see how this kind of tightens up. Now, as this tightens up, where our rates, when it gets to this point, rates are going to move. I'm giving people a little education, but something's going to move here. And typically the trend looks like though the rates will move down further. This is the price once again, but this trend, they usually move in the direction of the trend the last month or two. So this trend has been up in price, down in rates. So we might have a little bit lower in rates is what Barry is saying. But so anyway, in terms of the real Charlie, real quick, I want to touch upon that. There was an article I thought was real interesting, and you talk about the real interest rates, the real after adjusted for inflation, and they're talking about real mortgage rates, and that's kind of something that I ran across this article, and it was very interesting about talking about the real mortgage rate, saying that if you had a real mortgage, the mortgage rates are 5.25%. Let's say high fours, inflation running at 9.1%. You've got actually negative real mortgage rates. And this is actually the first time in like 40 years that we've had negative real rates on mortgages. If you think about it, mortgage rates were at 2.93%. Inflation was running at 1.5%, right? Let's say.
Yeah.
So
that's all inverted now.
Yeah. And so now it's basically, as painful as like say a 5.25% mortgage rate is compared to say a 3% mortgage rate, it's still a better deal, they say, than parking money in cash. An interesting note is that only 48 months in the last 51 years, the article went on to say that we've had negative interest rates. So it says that either rates have to rise further or inflation has to drop.
Yeah. So it or a combination of both.
It could be a combination of both. So, I mean, the bonds are in a squeeze box, as you can tell by that chart. I mean, we've been seeing volatility in a very constrained channel. And I think this is going to be the battle. I'm just giving you some people, hopefully some input for the next month or 2 or 3 months if they've got a lock or do something. I mean, I think next, September, we've got the Feds coming out, meeting again. Next week, we've got, some things coming out. So you're going to see some volatility in a constrained way, but I think it's going to be stuck in a channel.
It certainly looks that way. And I think, you were saying that as early as a month ago, and Sean is saying, are we starting to see that listing plateau? I think so. I mean, and I saw a presentation by Altos Research Group yesterday, and the numbers that I'm sharing with you here, it's exact. The whole country, everybody in the past 2 weeks nationally has seen inventory slow down. So this is what's happening here. You see these dots are a week, right? So you got we were growing at about 800 to 1,000 a week. Now went from 1660 to 17.1. So the rate of new listings coming on in Phoenix and nationally are really slowing down. And what the guy from Altos was saying, Pat, was he said, it looks like the people that were going to list in August and September listed in June. So they brought the inventory forward. And now the rest of them are done. They're waiting, and they're waiting, and I can see them willing to wait for a long time. Now, we had a video last night, and is inventory going up? Surprise. It is. It's going up everywhere, but it's going up because they're not coming off. So we're not seeing that all of a sudden everybody in Surprise is listing their homes. What we're seeing is that for sale sign that was normally up, that got an offer on Monday, now doesn't have an offer. Then the next sales sign comes up and they don't have an offer. So they're just not coming down. Back to my shoveling the dirt analogy. But the Altos guy was saying that it looks like we could hang here for quite a while. And I know that the magic number that people are throwing out there is they want to wait for a 25% price increase. We got a lot of comments from last night's show, Pat, people saying, where are all these buyers coming from you're talking about? What makes you think they're going to come back? I hear from them all the time. And so does Jackie. And she's got buyers that are saying, I'm waiting and I'll be back when this happens or that happens. There's this age group between 34 and I think it's 44. That is a huge pile of people doing what's called household formation. Like it or not, they're out there and they're waiting. And many of you have pulled back in that age group and said, I'm not playing in a sandbox. And I get it. It's hard. It's hard,
Barry,
right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Barry Habib did a deep dive on this about a year ago. The demographics are very strong for that. What you just said, it's you can't refute that. There's a ton of 28 to 38-year-olds are out there that they got one or two kids. They start having kids. They're not going to be renting all the time. They can't.
And if something breaks, I mean, even if interest rates were to go down below 4 right now, people will they come rushing back in? Maybe for a short period, but then it'll drive prices back up again. So we really don't hope. We really don't hope for that. I think if prices go down 25%, it'll be interesting to see if people are comfortable getting back in. And I've been following Open Door lately because they want to move as much inventory as they can by the end of September. I thought I'd pull up a couple of examples here. And on this one, you can see that, and they paid let me look up and see what they paid for this first. Let's make sure I'm accurate on this house. They paid well over their list price. So they paid $510,000 for this home. And I pull up the history and I see that on the 16th of May, they started asking $545. Now they paid $510, and they're going to ask $545 for it. And then they went down to $519. Then they went to $491. And now on the 4th of August, they went down to $428.
Whoa.
And that's across the board, Pat, when you look here. And so they're still not. So I've made offers on some of these that have gone down that far. And right now it looks to me like on the 4th of August, which was a Thursday, across the board, they lowered all these prices. It's like they just sent them off to their cubicles and said, lower these prices. We got to get rid of these things, and they're not moving. They're bringing them down to what I think when I look at it, I go, well, yeah, that might be worth 428, but that price point's getting hit pretty hard right now. But so then people looking and going, well, I'm going to offer them 400. Well, they're not willing to play there yet. They're kicking them back. We tried one, they were asking 620, and we wrote an offer for 520, and they're really nice about it. They call and go, wow, Rick, well, hey, we're pretty far off. Where do you think you can come in? I go, well, I don't know. What are you thinking? And she goes, well, we might entertain 600. So we might have got them down 20,000. That didn't work for my buyer. So I guess my point is, it's too early to lowball them right now. They're not moved. They feel like they have already moved and they're waiting. Now, if they want to clear these off by the end of September, I think they might get really aggressive, like right before the 25th of August, because you got that 30-day closing window. So we need to watch that and see if they had this big price dump on August 4th, what's their August 25th price dump?
That's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Charlie, they're on strike. I mean, and nobody's protesting. Look, we hit an affordability wall. We've been talking about it. We've been showing you in charts saying that affordability is going to be a problem, and it's a problem. And it got really bad in a couple of weeks when rates went up, and then the reality hit. It's like, I just can't do this.
Well, I think he's right. I think we talk about the numbers, and I go off on my tangents about psychology and stuff like that. But we can, you're great at numbers, looking at the details, the charts, and everything like that. And I looked at interest rates, but you got to use that information along with the elephant in the room, and that's psychology. And right now, the psychology is buyers have been whipsawed, and if I was a buyer, I'd be like, I see prices coming down, on a $450,000 house, they're coming down 5-6%. I'm not in any rush. I think they are kind of pseudo on strike, or just waiting. I mean, just kind of waiting to give them some time to think.
Yeah, there's no harm. There's no, us realtors, we get pounded quite a bit. Oh, you're trying to make us buy. I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
well, you do care. You do care, but I mean, you're not like, hey, I got.
Well, what I mean is look, I'm just a small YouTube channel. I'm not going to be able to move the masses. I'm not on this channel going to be able to say,
you'd be surprised.
Now's the time to buy. Let's go. Because it's, and it's like what Sean just said here. He goes, it's not hard to be on strike because renters are still out there giving us good prices. And, Sean, I rented and I'm going to hold out for a year. So, everybody's holding out for either 25% or a year. It across the board. Like next year, there's going to be some magic sauce out there, and it's going to have to be either a big price increase or a huge rate dump. And Pat, what are the odds for a huge dump in rates?
I mean, it's going to be, if there is a dump, it's going to be, I wouldn't say a dump, but I mean, next, there's Barry is saying that rates could test the 10-year, the 10-year could test its lows again in the next year and a half to 2 years, but that's 2 years out. So, I mean, I think overall, like you said, you look at their overall rate environment, and that's why I think people have to, like you just had a great point, our rates, where are we at right now? And it just feels like we're in this channel again. Like, we were stuck in this channel 47. Remember last year, we were like, here we go, just stuck along. Here we go, muddling along. And now we're seeing like we're muddling along again. And, there's still, obviously, I'm going to give you a little example. I just came across, I had a client, give you a scenario. He bought a house a couple years ago, 550, went to, the value's been around 800, 850, bought in Scottsdale. He came across another property. That seller was listed for $1 million or 1.1 million. My client was interested in that, and they negotiated. He came down 100,000. And my client was stuck on, he goes, no, I'm not going to pay $1 million. I'm going to pay $950,000. Well, they decided that seller said, nope, not $950,000. So my buyer pulled out. So this is kind of dilemma. I'm talking about how people are in dilemmas now. This is kind of the, so the seller, they walked away from the deal. The seller eventually, that property that he got offered $950,000 by my client, eventually selling it for $840,000 to a flipper, a flipper. Because my client said, yeah, he goes, they had a dumpster outside the next day, sold it to a flipper for $840,000. Now my client pulled back because he was trying to sell his house for $850,000, $840,000. He reduced the price. He's probably going to get about $780,000, and he's at, I think, about $800,000, $810,000 right now. And he's probably, I think about $780,000, $790,000. He said he's really, that's what the numbers are. But he's waiting to sell his house to buy another house. So
and that story repeats itself all over the valley. It's, we're starting to see contingencies come up a little bit, but not much. And that, that little green chart that I show you, just to show you here, I know this is hard to see, so I'm just going to kind of read it. So today we got 4,349 homes on the 7-day moving average for new listings, and 2,855 go under contract. That's reflected in the chart. It's a difference of 1,494. Now go back to June. In June, we were seeing 5,230 new listings over 7-day period. 2,919 go under contract. Pretty close to where we're at today, right? But the gap was 2,000 homes, 2,400 homes. Now the gap is 1,400 homes. And so if this were to continue in this mode, prices are, while they're coming down, are probably going to come down much slower. They're not coming down faster now. They were coming down at a really good clip in June. Now in August, the listing prices are coming down, but I think we're just going to have this price and movement stalemate based on it. Betta says that they're not worth what's being asked. I don't care about monthly payment, not paying Aston Martin for a Fiat. People have a very negative feeling about the price of homes. My first real house, I bought a condo for $33,490. My first house, I paid $103,000 for it, and I thought that was just really stretching my budget. and it was, considering what I was making.
Yeah.
I mean, my wife was a school teacher. She was making about $22,000 a year. I think I was driving the bread truck, and I was making maybe $28,000 a year, and we got into a $103,000 house. That was a pretty big stretch. But we thought, well, we'll buy it, and we had an adjustable rate mortgage. A lot of new listings are people who think they can get top dollar, maybe a slowdown in realistic. Well, we're seeing price reductions are over 5,000 on a 7-day moving average. So, they are, and there's a chart, but it'll take me a while to find it here when I go down. But people they got in May and June and priced up here, and then they quickly figured out that wasn't working. Actually, they're coming down faster now on listing prices than we've seen in quite some time. So there's a lot of people that get it, and there's a lot of people that don't. What I'm surprised, Pat, was I saw this article, and it's talking about retail space. And it's saying the retail real estate market during the second quarter of 2022, the Valley's retail sector saw its vacancy rate drop to 6.6%. Now, I never saw that coming because, we had, all these businesses shut down. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go to the gym. You couldn't, everything was all shut down. The malls were empty. And now we have an occupancy rate of only 6.6%. That's quite the spring back.
It is. It's definitely goes against conventional thinking.
The problem is during deflationary period under Donald Trump, housing should have come down, but it didn't. It didn't because there was just demand. I mean, there was demand to get out of the apartments and go up.
Well, the Feds kind of put us in this, squeeze box too, with rates being down where they were, 2.5%, 3%. Once again, I think that's going to be our buffer. People don't, the people are waiting for the 30% crash. Once again, there's 35 million people at 4% or lower. They are not going anywhere. They got equity. They got low rates. They're happier than hell.
Well, even the survey that I did on my channel at saying, where are you at? Below 3%, below 4%, above 4%, and 62% of our viewers here, millions.
I mean, we're not just talking couple people, millions.
Yeah, no, millions. And 63% are below 4%. Out of that 63%, 35% of you are under 3. You're not selling.
No. I mean, I'm sorry, but we did not have that scenario in 07, 08 because rates were at 6.5% to 7%. So,
yeah, that's a big difference. That's a big difference. And we also had the attempt at clamping down on the economy in 2018, and the market just fought it back. So they were saying the economy's not heating up. This is not a good time to clamp down. So they pivoted and they went back. I don't see them pivoting. They got a kind of on the board a 0.75 rate increase coming. Do you see them slowing that down, going back to 5.0?
Well, that's the thing that's going to be the $1 million question from here to September, because obviously that's why we're going to see the rate volatility now that we settled into this, 2 3/4 point increases. I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, inflation is, come down. We still do have inflation, unlike, some people are saying that we have zero inflation, but we do have inflation. So that's subsiding a bit, but is it inflation or recession talk? So, I mean, I think I really, if one was to look at it, the scenario, I think the Feds would probably lean towards staying where they're, stepping on it versus pulling back, because they can always pull back. If they increase it, they can always pull back.
You're at 8.5% inflation right now, and that they can't back off. I don't see it. And I don't think that's good for real estate. So I think if they went to back off and backed off quite a bit to where rates come down, we're back at, knocking on that affordability issue again.
Exactly.
Betty said here at the moment in Colorado, said couples are buying homes in their neighborhood, turning them into Airbnbs. And when they get the mortgages paid down, they move in. Have you heard anything? I haven't seen. I've seen it kind of the opposite here. Some Airbnbs being sold. In fact, the city of Sedona has put together a program, which I don't think is going to accomplish anything. They're offering Airbnb people $10,000 to rent to a local instead of renting, turning into an Airbnb. That's a one-time payment, $10,000. That's not going to do anything. And it says the pool of money is only big enough to help 30 homeowners. So that's not going to solve your Airbnb issue up there. And it's a big issue in Sedona. People don't like the crowds. They don't like the fact that their neighbors change every week. You guys don't have a Trump Biden argument on here.
Well, speaking of,
I get slapped on that from time to time.
We get slapped around saying don't get political, but I just want to step back. I don't want to get political, but I mean, you'd be naive not to talk about what's, from a political standpoint. Let's just touch on that, because if we were just to leave that out of the equation, you're leaving, the psychology. I mean, that's like buying a car without the tires.
Yeah, if either party does something that's going to affect real estate, I think they want us to tell you.
Exactly. And when I say about the change in November, if we do, I said if we see something does happen in November, we're going to see. I think that's where we might see some type of movement.
I don't know, and the reason I say I don't know is that every big election period, I go back and look at the numbers and say whatever the trend is stays. So I think it could have, but
I agree.
I beat up both parties. I got really mad at the Republicans for allowing the CDC to put a rent moratorium on. what right do they, constitutional right do they have to tell me that I can't collect rent from my rental?
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I feel that individual landlords can easily get on the phone and work out acceptable terms for both parties on their own, besides the government coming in and clamping down and saying, you can't do it. Because they said you can't collect rent. You know, if they're late, you can't kick them out. But they didn't. If they're going to tell me that and I own the house, then mail me a check. But they don't. And I've been in that situation as landlord before where, you know, the renter's not paying rent. And, you know, you call them up and go, look, what's your situation? What's going on? When do you think you'll be able to pay rent? Are you in a position where you can bring in a roommate? You know, do you need help maybe finding another place? And I've had situations where I couldn't get somebody out and I actually paid them and said, here, you know, I'll pay you $400 to move out, you know, if you need deposit for something else. And we did have a comment here said new owners in Phoenix have to register homes to be Airbnbs. Yeah, they're putting a transaction privilege tax on it. So anyway, they had the rental moratorium, and I just thought that was totally wrong. Well, then the next administration comes in, and when real estate's having an inventory shortage, they were proposing, wrongly so, a first-time home buyer's credit of like 18 grand. Well, that's just adding gasoline to the fire.
Yep.
You know, we have a problem where we have too many buyers and not enough inventory. So let's give the buyers more incentive to crank it up a notch. So be careful what the government does. Sometimes you have to discuss it. You have to look at it.
You have to talk about it. Yeah.
Mean?
I don't care who you are.
What does
exactly. Should
we,
so
anyway, having said that, Pat, have a tremendous trip. Oh, and hey, nice hat. Nice hat.
Oh, by the way, your giveaway for the mug, right?
Yeah. So
this is the hat that actually
Thursday.
people could,
That's going to be next Thursday on our Thursday show with the ladies.
I'm going to throw in a hat.
So
remember,
you're
I'm
going to
throw in a hat.
And there are only two. They're like NFTs.
There's a black. You can have a choice of gray or black. I might even throw in black, gray, and black.
Yeah.
For giggles.
So now the way it's going to work, it's going to be next Thursday. Next Thursday, all you have to, and people started doing it early. Don't do it early. Don't do it on this one. Next Thursday on the show, all you have to do is hit the like button and make a comment. And then I pull up what's called a YouTube random picker, and then we'll pick the winner, and we'll tell you who the winner is the next week. We're giving away that great coffee mug that we have, and the coveted prize winning hat. So I mean,
or hats
hats. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. And somebody was watching the show the other night, and they go, "Stop talking about mugs. Talk about real estate." Just. I did. We talked about real estate for 16 minutes. We talked about the mug for 1.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't win on here. Have a safe trip, Pat.
All right. Thanks, sir. Talk to you soon.
Later. Okay.
Have a good week, everybody. Bye-bye.